There is an amazing community amongst vinyl collectors that can be incredibly encouraging, supportive, and really fun to be a part of. But undoubtedly, with all things good comes the bad, and that's where the vinyl snob comes in. I've got a bunch of examples of what that looks like. Maybe it'll help you spot them more easily and avoid the conversation altogether. That's what we will discuss on this episode of Talking About Records. My name is G.I. Sanders from NTX Vinyl, a small chain of independent record shops in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. If you're not local but you're in the U.S., you can shop online at ntxvinyl.com. Would love it if you'd subscribe to our channel here on YouTube, follow us on social media, Facebook and Instagram. So all right, let's talk about the vinyl snob. You might be a vinyl record snob if, fill in the blank, right? So I've got a handful of things here that I've noticed over time. I think most importantly here is to call out the elephant in the room, and that is social media, because social media gives us all a voice. We can do with it what we'd like. Some people use it for good, some people use it for positivity, and other people just troll and troll and troll. And it happens in every hobby, it happens in every topic, it happens on every page and every profile and every group. So this is not unique to the vinyl community, I will preface that. But I will say, for someone like myself who lives within that community, online and offline, these things pop up more and more every day, and they can get really annoying. So we're gonna go through a few of these. There's many more than this. These are just the ones off the top of my head. All right. You might be a vinyl record snob if you call all reissues garbage. I really can't stand this one. The guy who, makes the comment immediately amongst someone posting an album that they're excited about. Yeah, but is it original? Oh, it's just a reissue. Oh, what's the point then, right? Really annoying, completely unnecessary, and just flat out wrong in a lot of circumstances. There are a lot of records being pressed these days and pressed in recent years, reissues of original albums that are top quality. I'm not saying that's all of them. Sure, the industry is struggling right now, going through issues with quality control. We all know this. But that doesn't mean that reissues are automatically of lesser quality than the originals. Sure, that argument can be made in the reverse, that a lot of times originals can sound better. But again, that doesn't mean you have to make a blanket statement and automatically call everything that's being reissued or repressed, subpar. So that's a really annoying thing that I see more often these days, and it's really frustrating because I think it really puts off new collectors who are just getting into this and getting their hands on records that are attainable to them, right? So that's number one. You might be a vinyl record snob if you claim anything digitally sourced is pointless. This goes right along with the first one in some cases. I see responses to albums and say, oh, it's digitally sourced. Well, so what you've got there is just an overgrown CD, right? Give me a break, right? First of all, there are a lot of people just getting into this hobby, like I just mentioned, that don't even know the difference between analog and digital. So how about we educate them? How about we help them understand the difference? And then how about we're also reasonable? Because there's a lot of music that was recorded digital to begin with and never even started out analog. Since the mid-90s, pretty much everything as a generalization is recorded digitally, right? Because that's when digital recording became a thing. So anything prior to that, yeah, it may be analog and maybe it's remastered for digital. Maybe the quality isn't up to par on your system, but you gotta keep the context, right? Not everyone has a system where you can even audibly tell the difference between analog and digital, and they might not even be in this for that reason, right? Sound is just one of many reasons that someone would choose to listen to music on a vinyl format versus any other format, right? So that's one that really frustrates me. I'm not saying it shouldn't be discussed. I think there's absolutely a topic around, where an album is sourced, and that's a very important piece of information that you should consider when you're purchasing an album. But again, the blanket statement that everything digital is absolute garbage, that does not fly with me, and I'm really sick of seeing it. You might be a vinyl record snob if you talk down to anyone with a lower end turntable. This one runs rampant. See people posting pictures online of enjoying an album that they maybe just bought or something that they pulled out of their collection, and they've got it on a turntable. And sure enough, there's a troll who says, yeah, great album. You should upgrade your system before you ruin it, right? Give me a freaking break. Just keep scrolling, people. Why do you have to do that? Just mind your own business and scroll on. You know, if you've got nothing nice to say, just keep your mouth shut. It seems like the simplest of things, right? Everyone's got a different situation. They've got a different budget. They're coming at the hobby of record collecting from a different angle. Maybe they're not as serious as you, and maybe they don't have hundreds or thousands of dollars to invest in a turntable. Again, it's about education. Maybe they don't know that the turntable they have is inferior to a model that you have, or maybe they don't know that they should spend just a little bit more and it'll sound that much better. So educate people instead of talking down to them. Don't be a snob. Don't be condescending. Be supportive and help people along this hobby, because that's what's going to give it longevity, right? You might be a vinyl record snob if you claim record store day is a complete joke and a waste of time. This is happening more and more with every record store day. You get people saying like, oh, I don't want anything to do with that. It's run its course and it's no good anymore and they should just stop it altogether. I think that is ridiculous. First of all, you've got to understand that people at record store day, I don't know them personally. I do know it's a very small group of people who execute all of everything that goes along with it in regards to the event and all the releases. The amount of work that goes into coordinating all that is massive. And in the end, regardless if you see releases that you're excited about, regardless if they're putting out releases that are, in your opinion, good or bad, or they should be repressing or not, it's a great day for the industry. It's a great day for people to get excited about records, period. Whether you go out and wait in line, whether you buy online, whether you don't buy at all, you've got to understand that there is a ton of positivity that circulates around the record store day event and the concept. And so to make a blanket statement that the entire thing is a waste of time, I think that's really naive, and unfortunately seeing it more and more, and I hope those opinions start to curve over time, because record store day is here to stay. In my opinion, I don't think it's going anywhere, and I think the more we can embrace it and the more we can support it is only going to help the industry long term, like I mentioned. You might be a vinyl record snob if you refuse to admit that any other format is as good as vinyl. Now, I'm as guilty of this one as anyone, because I only collect vinyl. I don't collect CDs. I don't collect cassettes. I don't do reel-to-reels. I don't do 8-tracks. I've got a couple of those things around, but as far as my main collection is primarily vinyl, just because that's what I love. But I'm not naive to say that all those other formats are no good and they can't compete with vinyl. Sure, it depends on the pressing, it depends on the album. There is a lot of different variables that play into the specifics of a recording and the format that is an output on. So that's one that, again, I see a lot in vinyl forums where people talk down about all of the other formats out there, digital files included and streaming included. And look, I'm as guilty as this of anyone. I try not to do it. I try to keep an open mind, and that's really all you can do. Even though I'm very much a vinyl collector at heart, I have an appreciation for all the other formats. And if you love listening to music on any other format, I think that's the most important thing, is do what you enjoy, do what works for you, based on your scenario, based on your budget, and based on what you love. That's the key. You might be a vinyl record snob if you have a condescending response towards common albums. This is a big one. I see people all the time. They get home from the record store. They got a copy of, Fleetwood Mac Rumors, a perfect example. $15. They're excited. They got a deal on it at their record store. They had never seen it before. It's a vintage copy from 1977. They post a picture of it with all that excitement. Inevitably, you get the vinyl record snob. Oh, looks like, good bargain bin find. See that? You can find that one at every garage sale. I've got 4 of those in my collection. Oh, that one looks a little worn out. Just give me a break. Again, just keep on scrolling. Just because it's a common album to you, just because you've seen it over and over and over, doesn't mean that that's not a treasure to the person who bought it, right? There are plenty of people, again, just starting out in this, and maybe they only have a handful of records. So the fact that they found a copy of Rumors from 1977, rare or not, Doesn't matter that there were millions of those pressed and they're still out there everywhere. That doesn't matter to that person. It's really exciting, and they should appreciate that, and they should love it, and they should have the ability to, talk about that on social media without getting chastised and without getting talked down to. I think that's a really, really disappointing thing to see over and over. And again, I think it happens mostly on albums that are somewhat common versus albums that are rare or more valuable. You don't see it as much. So that's something I'd love to see stop. You might be a vinyl record snob if you insist that all colored vinyl LPs are inferior to black vinyl records. That's a little ridiculous. Colored vinyl has been in existence since way back in the 60s, maybe even late 50s, up to current day. And there are plenty of circumstances where they sound absolutely great. It depends a lot more on the mastering and the manufacturing and the quality control of a record than the color. That being said, black vinyl can sound better. But the blanket statement is what kills me, because I see it all the time. I see people come in just like they chastise people for posting a common album. People will post a colored record and be like, that's great, you should get the black version, it sounds way better, It's a really disappointing thing to see, because it just creates negativity and it creates confusion, because when you're telling that person who posted that, maybe they're not educated and they believe you. That's the worst part about the majority of these items that I'm talking about, is it spreads false truths, and that's not good for anybody in this hobby. So really frustrating to see. So the idea that all color records sound worse than black records is absolutely not true. It depends on the unique pressing, album by album. There is absolutely something to be said for black vinyl being a little more pure and having a tendency to have better sound. I'm not saying that's not the case, but again, the blanket statement doesn't work. It's simply not true. Love to see it stop. You might be a vinyl record snob if you constantly critique the way others handle their own records. Keep in mind, these are not yours. You're looking at photos or videos of other people handle their records. That's their records. Let them do whatever they please with those records. If they want to handle and touch all over the grooves and smear them, well, again, try and educate them a little bit. Say, hey, you might want to be a little more careful, just so you know you're making your record really dirty and it's probably going to impact the sound. That's one way to go about it, as opposed to being a complete jerk and just basically chastising people and saying, you really shouldn't touch your records like that. You know that, right? Like there's a tone and there's a delivery with social media that is often lost, just like it used to be lost in email. And now it translates over to social media and it's 1,000 times worse. But handling of records, again, is an educational thing. I think most people, if you see them handling a record in the wrong way, it's not because they're trying to ruin the records. It's simply because they don't know that you shouldn't touch the grooves at all, or that you should keep your records in sleeves, inner and outer, that you should clean them. All these types of things that go along with, kind of 101, record collecting 101 and basics. So again, it's about education, but I hate to see when people take a negative tone and talk down to people because of the way they're handling the records. And then, like I said, they're not yours. So let people do with their stuff what they'd like. Do all you can to educate them and help a little bit, but just, again, scroll on by if you don't have anything nice to say. It's a very simple concept. Last but not least, you might be a vinyl record snob if you don't welcome new collectors into this hobby. I've had conversations online, of course, primarily, where people simply say, oh, they should just stop making records because we don't want all of these new kids into this hobby. It's ruining it. It's creating an environment where the quality's going down, and it's creating an environment where it's watering down the hobby in general, because now everything's becoming more collectible and there's so much kind of discussion, and now records are being sold in big box stores, and we just don't want any of these new collectors here. Give me a freaking break. Just get off my lawn, right? I mean, it's just so worn out. I'm so sick of seeing the old guard not being receptive to the new guard coming in. Like, it happens in every hobby. It happens in anything you do. There's going to be a new generation of collectors. Are they going to come and they're going to act and react in the exact same ways you do when you started collecting? No. Someone who started collecting 20, 25 years ago like me is going to look at records completely different than someone who started collecting 25 years before that, or who started collecting 25 days ago, right? It's all about perspective and it's all about context. But I hate to see a new collector, again, get involved with something and immediately get chastised, and then the opinion comes out even if it's between the lines, that you're not welcoming to the new collector. That's very frustrating for me to see, not only as a record store owner, obviously, but just as a collector, because in my opinion, the more people who get involved in this, the more people who get enjoyment out of vinyl, the hobby and the records themselves, is only going to give this thing fuel to the fire. And that's what we need for it to become the physical format of the future. Right now it's a small niche, and hopefully it'll stick around, but you never know. We've got to do this the right way. We've got to take the right steps on the business side and in the community to ensure that vinyl as a hobby and as a thing sustains long term. I sure hope it does. If you're watching this, you probably do as well, because that means you're a fan. So that's a short list of a few of my nitpicks and my annoyances from within the vinyl community that I see, where there's just this snobbery and this condescending tone. Don't get me wrong, it's not everywhere. It's a couple out of every 100 things you happen to read or see. And in most of the cases, it gets squashed by all of the positivity. Because like I mentioned at the beginning, there is a very positive, engaging, and supportive community, regardless if that means in your local store or in your favorite group or on your favorite page or whatever it may be. So hopefully some of these things will start to decline as far as how prevalent they are out there in the community. But that's up to us. That's up to people who love this and who are really engaging on it. So that's my spiel. Surely there are others that I've missed, so I'd love to hear it in the comments. If there are other scenarios that you see or other topics that you see brought up that kind of lean in this direction, that should stop. So this has been another episode of Talking About Records. I really appreciate you watching. Thanks for all the support on the channel. We will pop up some more videos right now, and we will see you next time.